I'm watching something called Freaky Eaters on Netflix. It's a show about weird compulsive eating disorders where people eat the same thing over and over. And in season 1, episode 5 of Freaky Eaters on the channel TLC, talks about a girl who's 20 years old, has a normal job, done with school or whatever, and she drinks 30 Coca Colas a day. So that's 4,200 kilocalories per day. And the average girl needs maybe 1,800 per day to sustain or maintain the same weight. That's for a sedentary lifestyle. So that means there's a surplus of 2,200 kilocalories per day. Now, a surplus of 3,500 is often stated to be, the amount of extra food that you need to eat, food and drink, to gain 1 pound a day, which would mostly be fat, I guess, if you're eating that much. And 2,200 is maybe, 2/3 of a pound, something like that. So why is this girl not fat, and why wouldn't she gain 2/3 of a pound a day? And that would slowly taper off, right? Because, as you gain mass, you have more caloric requirements, and if she keeps drinking the same amount of Coke, she would gain less and less weight until she reaches the equilibrium. Of course, in real life, people who go down that road will just eat more and more carbs until they get fatter and fatter. So they'll just eat more food, exponentially as they gain weight. But in this case, I have on my phone right here, this girl, she's actually attractive. She has a good body. She's not even chubby. She's not fat. So why is that? And, I don't want to hear the excuse that she's young, because basically when you're 17, for girls maybe a little earlier, they stop growing. And once you're done growing vertically, you can't eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day anymore. So that's why when people are 17 and they go off to college, they're largely done growing, and, they start packing on the freshman 15 or whatever. They gain weight. Of course, a lot of that is due to lack of parental supervision, home-cooked meals, and they just start eating tons and tons of junk food. But, it doesn't explain why this girl can maintain such a good shape and all that despite eating such a huge surplus of just empty junk. So people always say calories in, calories out, blah, 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 but that's actually a gross oversimplification of what actually happens. You can measure to the T what goes into your body, but you have no idea of what gets absorbed, how much your output truly is. All these estimations for body transformations on caloric output are based on really silly things like steady state cardio, and even for things like that, it really depends on the terrain or the kind of machine you're doing. And you can't just guesstimate on a machine, input your weight and do the exercise and come up with a very precise number. Everybody's metabolism is a little different. Everyone has a different bone structure. When you do any kind of exercise that involves high intensity or high power output, you're going to build some muscle, and that requires tons of calories over the next few days. And let's say if you have a cold or something, you're sick, well, you're going to burn thousands of kilocalories to recover from that. Or if you get injured, or even if you had like a benign tumor or something, that's going to use up some extra calories. Things like that. There are just so many ways in which the absorption and actual caloric expenditure is different from what you'd expect, that I think counting calories in that sense, you can control what you put in, but you constantly have to adjust that because it looks good on paper, but you don't know for sure what your output will be. And the circumstances change day to day. So I have some theories on why this young woman can look so good despite drinking 4,200 kilocalories of Coke a day. One, maybe she just doesn't get enough essential fatty acids and protein to synthesize additional mass. That's possible. you know, maybe she's just pissing it out, excreting it in, you know, after, yeah, it basically just doesn't get into the system anymore. I mean, it does state in the show that she's pre-diabetic, meaning she has high blood sugar and high insulin levels, but, you know, she's not an actual diabetic yet. So I think, you know, that doesn't really factor into the equation. So yeah, when you say calories in, calories out, it doesn't really mean all that much. And this just kind of goes to show that, you know, when people always say diet determines, say, 80% of how you look, I mean, this is a good example of why that's not true. I would rank the factors in order of importance as genetics first, and then exercise, sleep, and then diet. Meaning you can get by on a very meager, marginal junk food diet and still not be too bad off compared to if you have bad genetics, you don't do the right exercise or exercise at all. You know, like all of that stuff heavily outweighs diet in my opinion. For me, I eat kind of a varied diet. I basically like eating anything, and that can be a plus or minus. You know, I can easily overeat, but at the same time, I'm not picky. I eat anything, and there are only like very few things that make me have an allergic reaction with hives or itchiness. So aside from that, you know, I've been watching the series. It's very interesting, and they say in some of the episodes that people who are freaky eaters, very, very picky eaters, we have a lot of these in America, are people with actually more sensitive taste buds, and that's paradoxical because they say people like me have less sensitive taste buds. So I don't know if I agree with that statement, but I think there must be something going on. It's genetic, clearly, because they start at a very early age, you know, when they're like 5 in this instance. And then she had her first Coke when she immigrated to America and worked her way up to 30 Cokes a day. So, you know, some people just never grow out of that juvenile taste bud phase where, you know, they eat something like French fries or ketchup or burgers or Coke, potato chips, for instance, and then they just develop an addiction and keep eating it because they like the texture of the food in combination with the taste. And, you know, there are certain textures that I like and don't like, but generally I can eat anything. I mean, if you put tons of vegetables in front of me, I'm just going to eat it all. If you put meat, you know, I'm not one of those people that acts like a 5-year-old and just wants to throw up when you put shellfish or fish in front of me. I mean, I love all of that. And I also love the processed and synthetic stuff too from time to time, but honestly, like a high carb garbage diet like that would just make me want to vomit, and, you know, I'd be nauseous all day.